The day I transformed a robber's life. I was heading home late at night. The roads were deserted. The air was chilly, and the breeze made my coat flutter. The street lamps were dim, and the shadows stretched far. My footsteps were the only noise in the silent night. I hugged my coat tighter and continued walking. Everything appeared ordinary, but then I sensed something odd. It was a sensation I couldn't describe. Someone was trailing me. I paused briefly. The noise behind me halted as well. My heart raced. Quicker. I glanced back slightly and spotted a guy. He was moving quickly, hands in his pockets, head lowered, but his gaze was on me. I felt anxious. Perhaps he was just heading the same direction. Perhaps it was nothing. But inside, I knew something was amiss. I began walking again, quicker this time. The guy sped up too. My hands turned. I see why. My legs felt weighted down. I rounded a corner, hoping to shake him. But when I checked behind, he was still there. His eyes were shadowy. His expression was grave. He wasn't merely strolling. He was pursuing me. Terror surged through my body. My brain urged me to sprint, but my legs wouldn't budge. The guy drew nearer. Then I noticed something in his grip. A blade. My breathing halted. My body stiffened. He aimed the blade at me. His voice was deep but firm. "Hand over your cash," he demanded. I stared at him. He was youthful, perhaps slightly older than me. His clothes were worn. His shoes had tears. His hands trembled. His eyes weren't filled with rage. They were filled with something else: fear, sorrow, hopelessness. I reached into my pocket. I had some cash. I could hand it over and leave. But something within me held me back. This guy wasn't just a robber. He was more than that. And in that instant, I made a choice. A choice that would alter both our lives. I inhaled deeply. My heart still pounded rapidly. But my fear began to shift. I looked at the guy again. His hands still quivered. His eyes darted from my face to the road, then back to me. He appeared uneasy. He didn't want to harm me. He just needed something. Cash, food, perhaps an escape from his troubles. I recognized that emotion. I'd witnessed it before. Gradually, I reached into my pocket. The guy observed me closely. I could see his fingers grip the blade tighter. I drew out my wallet and flipped it open. I had some bills. Not a lot, but sufficient for him. I extended the cash. He snatched it swiftly. But I held on. He looked at me puzzled. "What are you doing?" he questioned. His voice was gruff but not forceful. I met his gaze. "Are you starving?" I inquired. He didn't respond. He just gazed at me. I could see the struggle in his thoughts. He wanted to flee, but something held him. Perhaps no one had ever asked him that. Perhaps he didn't know how to reply. The quiet between us grew thick. The night felt frostier. Eventually, he nodded. It was a tiny motion, but I noticed it. I took another deep breath and decided. "Come with me," I said. He looked stunned. "What?" he asked. His hold on the blade eased slightly. "Come with me," I repeated. "I'll get you some food." For a moment he stayed still. His eyes scanned my face, searching for deception, searching for a reason to bolt. But there was none, just sincerity, just an offer. Gradually, he lowered the blade. His hand shook as he tucked it in his pocket. He glanced at the cash, then at me. "Why?" he asked. His voice was gentler now. I offered a small smile. "Because I believe you need assistance more than I need this cash." He stood there for a few seconds, pondering. Then, without a word, he nodded again, and together we began strolling down the vacant road. We walked without speaking. The roads were silent, and the cool breeze brushed our faces. The guy walked beside me, but he maintained space. His hands remained in his pockets. His eyes shifted side to side, as if prepared to dash any time. I understood his dread. He didn't trust me. Perhaps he thought this was a setup. Perhaps he thought I'd alert the cops. But I had no intention of that. I just wanted to assist. After a few minutes, we arrived at a little eatery. The lights were bright, and the aroma of hot food filled the air. I pushed open the door and entered. The guy paused. He looked at the door, then at me. His body was rigid. He wasn't sure if he should enter. I waited. I said nothing. I just looked at him, showing he had a choice. Finally, he inhaled deeply and stepped in. The eatery was nearly empty. A lady behind the counter smiled at us. "What can I get you?" she asked. I looked at the guy. "Order anything you like," I said. He stared at the menu on the wall. His hands stayed in his pockets. His eyes scanned the words quickly, but I wasn't sure if he was truly reading them. After a moment he spoke. "A burger," he said softly. Then he added, "and fries." His voice was different now, almost hesitant, like he wasn't used to requesting things. I nodded. "And a coffee," I said to the lady. She jotted it down and walked away. We sat at a small table in the corner. The guy kept his eyes on the table. His fingers drummed against his leg. He was anxious. He wasn't accustomed to this. I wanted to ask him questions, but I didn't want to pressure him. Instead, I waited. Finally, he spoke. "Why are you doing this?" His voice was quiet, almost worried. I thought for a moment. "Because I know what it's like to have nothing," I said honestly. He looked at me for the first time since we Saturday. His eyes were full of questions, but he didn't voice them. Instead, he just nodded. The food arrived, and he ate rapidly. He didn't speak. He didn't look up. He just ate, as if he hadn't eaten in days. I watched him, but I said nothing. This wasn't the time for words. This was the time for food, warmth, and a moment of calm. He ate quickly, almost too quickly. It was obvious he hadn't had a decent meal in a long time. His hands shook slightly as he lifted the burger. He took large bites, barely chewing before swallowing. The fries vanished fast. I sipped my coffee and observed him, not uttering a word. He didn't look up. Didn't slow down. He was focused solely on the food before him. After a few minutes, the plate was clean. He leaned back in his chair and exhaled a small breath. It was the first time I saw him unwind, even just a bit. He wiped his hands on his pants and finally met my eyes. "Thank you," he said, his voice low but genuine. I nodded. "You're welcome." There was a pause, then he spoke again. "I haven't eaten like this in weeks," he confessed. I leaned forward slightly. "What happened?" I asked. He looked down at the table. His fingers traced a small crack in the wood. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer, but then he exhaled deeply. "I lost my job," he said. "Couldn't pay rent, got evicted. After that, everything worsened." His voice was steady, but there was ache beneath it. I listened attentively. He continued. "At first, I thought I could land another job, but no one would hire me. I slept in shelters when possible, on the streets when not, and then one day, I was just starving, desperate." He looked up at me. "That's when I spotted you." His eyes held something different now, regret, perhaps shame. I nodded slowly. "You didn't want to injure me," I said. It wasn't a question. He shook his head. "No," he admitted. "I just didn't know what else to do." The weight of his words lingered between us. The eatery was still quiet. The lady behind the counter cleaned tables, not noticing us. Outside, the street lamps glowed faintly. After a moment, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my wallet again. He tensed, but I didn't take out cash. Instead, I took out a small card and placed it on the table. "This place assists people like you," I said. "They provide food, shelter, and even help find jobs." He looked at the card but didn't touch it. His fingers clenched into fists. I don't want handouts, he said. His voice tight. I gave a small smile. It's not a handout. It's an opportunity, I said. An opportunity to begin again. He stared at the card for a long time. His breathing was slow, deep. I could see the conflict inside him. The part that wanted to seize the opportunity and the part afraid to trust it. He stared at the card for a long time. His fingers hovered over it but didn't touch it. I could see the doubt in his eyes. He wanted to take it, but something restrained him. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was fear. Maybe he had tried before and failed. I didn't hurry him. I let him reflect. The eatery was still quiet. Outside, the night grew chillier. The roads were deserted, just like before. Finally, he exhaled deeply and picked up the card. He flipped it in his hand, reading the name, the address. You really think they can assist me? He asked. His voice was unsure. I nodded. Yes, I said simply, but only if you want the assistance. He frowned and looked away. He was battling internally. I understood. Change was frightening. Trust was difficult. He slipped the card into his pocket. He didn't say anything, but that small gesture meant something. It meant he was considering it. That was sufficient for now. I finished my coffee and looked at him. Where are you crashing tonight? I asked. He let out a small, dry chuckle. Nowhere, he said. Like always. His words were casual, but I could hear the sadness underneath. I thought for a moment. The shelter on this card, it's not far from here, I said. They take people in at night. He shook his head. I don't know, he muttered. I don't want to go somewhere and get kicked out again. His voice was quiet, almost like he was talking to himself. I understood. He had lost a lot, maybe more than I knew. Trusting people again was not easy, but I could not force him. I could only offer. You don't have to decide now, I said, but think about it. He did not respond right away. His eyes stayed on the table. I waited. Finally, he spoke. Why do you care? His voice was softer now, not suspicious like before, just curious. I thought about my answer. Because someone once helped me, I said, when I had nothing, when I was lost, and it changed everything. He looked at me for a long time. His expression was unreadable. Then slowly, he nodded. I reached into my pocket one last time and took out a few bills. I placed them on the table and pushed them toward him. This is not for stealing, I said. This is for starting over. He hesitated, then picked up the money. He held it carefully, as if it was something fragile. His eyes met mine. I don't know what to say, he admitted. You don't have to say anything, I replied. Just use it well. He nodded again, slower this time. Something in his face had changed. The fear, the desperation, it was still there, but now there was something else. Hope. For a few moments we sat in silence. The money was still in his hands. The card was in his pocket. He looked down at the table, deep in thought. I could see the struggle on his face. He had spent so long surviving, fighting, running. Now someone was offering him a different path, and he did not know if he could take it. I waited, not wanting to rush him. This was his decision to make. Finally, he took a deep breath and put the money in his pocket. I'll go, he said, his voice quiet but firm. I'll try. It was not a promise. It was not a guarantee, but it was something. It was a step. I nodded, showing him that I understood. That's all you need to do, I said. Try. He pushed his chair back and stood up. I did the same. The diner was still mostly empty. The woman behind the counter glanced at us but said nothing. Outside, the cold night waited. He hesitated, looking at the door, then back at me. I don't know if this will change anything, he admitted. His voice was honest, uncertain. I gave him a small smile. You won't know until you take the first step, I said. He nodded slowly. Then, without another word, he turned and walked toward the door. I watched him go. He stepped outside, standing under the street lights for a moment. I thought he might change his mind, that he might disappear into the night like a shadow. But then he looked at the card in his hand, took a deep breath, and started walking in the direction of the shelter. I stood there for a long time, watching him until he was out of sight. A part of me wanted to follow, to make sure he really went. But I knew I couldn't do that. This was his journey now. I had done what I could, the rest was up to him. As I left the diner and walked home, I felt something different inside me. I had almost been a victim tonight. My life could have taken a different turn. But instead, I had met someone who needed help more than I needed safety. And in that moment, I had made a choice, not to run, not to fight, but to listen, to understand, to give. I never saw him again after that night. I never knew if he stayed at the shelter, if he found a job, if his life changed. But I like to believe that it did. I like to believe that sometimes one small act of kindness can be enough to turn a life around. And maybe, just maybe, that night was the start of something new for both of us.